Hey everybody, it is Kellen Nitro for Nitro Maniac TV's Wrestling Unlimited. Joining me in this video is one of our great contributors here. You've seen him on all of our WWE content, and you'll see him more on some WWE related stuff coming up in the weeks and months ahead. It is the mighty, the mysterious, the masterful TL. How you doing, TL?
Hey, I'm doing great.
Awesome.
How you doing?
I'm doing good. An interesting hypothetical hit me, TL, a few weeks ago.
Do tell.
I was waiting for some sort of reaction from you, but it was like delayed for whatever reason. And so I was like, oh, you didn't want to hear. All right. But well, that's the video. Goodbye, everyone.
Good night, everybody.
Yeah, good night. See ya. No, so what had happened was a few years ago, the British Broadcasting Corporation put out what they called its Desert Island series, where they interviewed different British celebrities and A-listers and you name it. And the hypothetical was this: if you were banished to a desert island, what 5 musical albums would you take with you? Remember, you cannot leave this island. This will be your home for the rest of your life. Now you have all the amenities of a modern day, deserted island or whatever. This we're talking like full on Richard Branson here, TL. So like you get to this is you leaving I guess civilization because you're rich and crazy and see ya. So you have a big house, you have everything, right? But
Yeah.
what 5, in that hypothetical was, what 5 musical albums would you take with you to listen if you could only take 5 with you? So I thought about that, and I'm like, okay, well, we're wrestling nerds here. So what 5 wrestling pay-per-views would we take with us to this deserted island? And remember, no internet, so there's no streaming services or whatever. These are pay-per-views that are on DVD or VHS or what have you. So you got to load up a box of 5 wrestling shows, pay-per-views, and take them with you. And those are your 5 to watch till they find you, 6 months later after you have passed, keeled over in the bush somewhere or something on the island. Sound fair?
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm glad that you made it pay-per-views only, because much like in the BBC series, their whole thing was you couldn't have anthologies or greatest hits. They had to be your actual albums.
That's right. So no compilations here. That's the only ground rule I'm going to have throughout this, is there's no compilations. They are, like I said, pay-per-view events. Or if the event is prior to the pay-per-view era, kind of kicks off in 1987. So if the event was, I'll make 2 exceptions to the rule, is if you have the event listed as a closed circuit event, that works as the same as a pay-per-view, so that's fine. So I'm talking like your early Starcades or, your first 2 WrestleManias, you name it, under there.
Yep.
That's right. Or as well, falling underneath that, the tour shows that Jim Crockett Promotions used to put on during the 80s for the old school fans, because those were, basically a tour of house shows over a month, but they were titled like the Great American Bash or whatever, or Road to Starcade and Starcade, something similar to that. So, and eventually what they would do in 85, 86, and 87, they would produce a best of cassette, but it was, the Great American Bash, blah, blah, blah. Here was the card, but they were matches from different stops in the card. So, yeah. So those are the 2 exceptions. We're not doing personality profiles, so those are gone. And we're not doing television specials. So if there was a special episode of Raw or SmackDown or ECW or, TNA, Impact, Ring of Honor, AEW, sorry, doesn't count. Just looking for pay-per-views. That's it.
Yeah, just pay-per-views.
So I'm going to do this with everybody on the channel over throughout the month, and I'll try and bring in some guest contributors to this as well. But ladies and gentlemen, that's like, ladies and gentlemen, I muffed that.
What just happened to your brain? You turned into Stallone? What just happened? Hey, ladies and gentlemen.
The botulism hit my brain all of a sudden. I was like,
Oh man, it's Attack of the Chicken Burger.
all right. I'm turning pink too. Look at that. Anyway, just kidding.
It makes sense. It makes sense. We're leaving this all in. All of it.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the first ever Nitromaniac TV Desert Island series. And this is when we played all the really ASMR sounding music with the, like almost Enya sounding or whatever thing.
Enya, man, I'm an island boy. Why can't it be like Steel Pan and like
okay, sure,
music?
It's your island. You do whatever you want. I want Enya on my island. You want You
want Enya on your island?
Yes, I want Enya on my island.
Hey boy. You see, they want me to know Enya on my island, My island have Calypso and Limbo and Trinidad Ting.
Are you going to have that Calypso band that was on the Super Dave Osborne show back in the day that all they knew was Copacabana?
That was, first of all, that was one of the funniest things ever, and my parents talk about that to this day. That was such a big moment.
I wasn't sure if you were going to get the reference or not. So
no, we absolutely know that one. Every West Indian knows that moment. Trust me.
We know plenty songs.
Just play that same one.
The same song over and over again.
Yeah. They're on my island. They're invited.
All right, cool. Excellent. All right. So in this first episode, I will hit you with my list. TL will hit you with his list. And in subsequent episodes, when we hook up with Morehouse, and I'm planning to bring in Spencer Love from lovewrestling.ca again, and maybe a few other people to get involved on this, they will give their list of 5, and we will debate and talk, and content will ensue, and everybody will have fun. So here we go.
All right.
So my 5. What social network was that with the My 5? Anyway, whatever. It's beside the point. My 5 for pay-per-views. I'm just going to list them 1 through... Not really ranked either. These are just the 5 that I had picked. I'm going to start with the 2 that are probably the most emotionally connective to me is WrestleMania 20 and Backlash 2004.
Ooh.
Now, the reason being is kind of... twofold, right? Is the rise of the hometown hero for us here, Chris Benoit.
Yep.
And in his subsequent fall, but the rise of the hometown hero, and then the triumphant return of said hometown hero with the belt at the, to this day, one, and it's a weird crime that there haven't been any more of these, but I don't understand. The one and only pay-per-view held in Benoit's former hometown since then was the one he main evented, which is Backlash 2004. So it's just this. I don't think that they have. I think it's an unwritten policy at WWE head offices that they don't put a pay-per-view in Edmonton.
Yeah, probably.
Is it safe to say? I mean, at this point, it's 2021. That both those shows took place in March and April of 2004.
And Benoit did his little thing when?
2007-ish, I think. Yes.
Yeah, it hasn't been long enough. They're going to have to keep that, ban in Edmonton for a little while longer.
When do you think?
How much longer is Vince McMahon going to be alive?
Really, that long? Wow.
Plus 5, but yeah.
just throw +5 at the end of it. Wow.
That's the quarantine.
Well, yeah, I'm just going to say too, this current situation that we're in doesn't help matters either, but because nobody is getting any pay-per-views across the board.
Exactly.
Ain't nobody getting nothing. So, just both those shows, WrestleMania 20, the undercard for WrestleMania 20 is phenomenal. If you haven't seen it before, first of all, what is wrong with you? Go see it. And second of all, check out the undercard because it is stacked, because you have, Kurt Angle, Eddie Guerrero for the WWE title in a really awesome match.
Underrated.
Yeah.
Very underrated match.
Yep. You have The Rock and Saw Connection versus Evolution.
Yeah, that was pretty fun.
That was cool. Yep, exactly. You have a cruiserweight title battle royal that has the most amazing moves in it and also botches that you'll ever see in a single match.
That was a hot mess.
Especially Ultimo Dragon tripping over his cape on his way up to the ring, which is, just the guy's like a world-class athlete, held every junior heavyweight belt known to mankind. And what's the one thing he's remembered for? Falling on his ass in front of a packed house at MSG. Oh man.
I wouldn't say that's the only thing, but I mean,
it's up there.
You're not wrong.
Yeah. It's kind of the thing. So, and what else on that card? Just thinking top of memory. John Cena wins his first title against the Big Show.
Yeah, was that where he did the at the time the FU to the Big Show on one foot?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, that was all right.
Yeah, because I think they were selling the ankle in a storyline or something. It's almost time of year again to watch that show again. So I'm due to watch it within the next couple of weeks once again.
Okay.
Yeah, so I will update everybody once that happens. But I do believe that's the case. I think that was the storyline because they had injured Cena's ankle or something, and he went with it and actually did the FU with a 450-pound Big Show.
Yep.
On one foot. Yep, exactly, like you were saying. So.
Also on that card, by the way, is one of the best stinkers of all time.
Brock Lesnar Goldberg?
Absolutely.
Now, in subsequent years, I was split feelings going to WrestleMania 33 and seeing the rematch live in person because I was like, oh God, this is the worst match in WrestleMania history. Why are we getting a rematch of this? Blah, blah, blah. But then I realized and we work in the media, or you have worked in the media industry. I work in the media industry and vice versa. It was a make good. It was a make good. That's all it was. It was okay. They missed the spot. Do it again.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's all it was. It was a make good. So.
But you know what? I think it's the most successful stinker of all time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Bar none. It had the biggest stage.
Yeah. So I mean, like, there's something to it.
I would say so.
Yeah.
I'm tend to agree with that.
It's worth a look.
Yeah, for sure. And a whole bunch of other great content on that one. So WrestleMania 20, my first one on the Desert Island list. Backlash 2004, just quickly. Of course, you have the triple threat rematch from the WrestleMania match, which I think is actually a bit better than Benoit's title win. I thought the match at Backlash 2004 was a little, it flows better. I think that they were able to work out some stuff that didn't really work during the WrestleMania match and kind of delete that and add some new stuff that between HBK and Triple H and Benoit that really got Benoit even more over than he was. And I think the Live House, of course, in Edmonton helps during that era because, again, local hero. I was at the civic ceremony a few days before where they gave him the key to the city.
Yep.
Take that as you will now. They also named a day after him as well. Like I said, take that as you will now. But the undercard for Backlash 2004 has a career-making moment for one Randy Orton because it's Randy Orton versus Mick Foley, I should say, in a hardcore war. This is the closest to ECW, hell, FMW style wrestling that WWE has ever got, even counting the one night stand pay-per-views.
So many tacks.
It is just unreal, this thing.
He went into the tacks.
Yeah, he did. He does. It is just an amazing watch.
I'm still traumatized by that one. That was such a great match.
It's a great match. It's awesome, and I think it's. Oh, is it for Eddie Bell? I don't. I think it's just a grunge match, but and Foley's promos leading up to it, old school. Like we got ECW Mick Foley, we got ECW Cactus Jack for that match for one night.
In a way, was that not like the last great Mick Foley match in WWE?
Well, one would argue the WrestleMania match with Edge was the last great WWE match. But
oh yeah, no, you're right, absolutely.
But this is up there. You could argue this for sure because he was a couple years younger at this point too. And
Yeah,
he was retired, but he was semi-retired, and he would come back for these one-offs and you name it, right?
yeah, no, okay, that makes sense.
So that's up for discussion. Maybe that'll be a later video of the,
Was he Cactus Jack for this match or no?
No, he was Mick Foley.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Well, now I'm doing a quick Google just to make sure. So Backlash 2004. They said attendance was 13,000. I can tell you that's a lie. It was way more than there was way more than 13,000 in that building that night. I know, I was there. No, they got him listed as Cactus Jack. Okay, well, hey,
I knew it. I thought that was part of the storyline where like he was like you were going to get the most hardcore version of Mick Foley, and he was Cactus Jack.
It was Cactus Jack. Yep. Okay. Yep. That makes sense. Makes sense for sure. So those are my first two. Do you want to name your first two, or shall I name off the rest of my list first?
We can go 2-2-1-1. Yeah, we can do that.
Okay, it's your turn. Go.
All right. Let's see. So, of my first two here, I'm gonna go with WrestleMania 17 or X7. That one is basically the best one between The Rock and Stone Cold Steve Austin. Also has the TLC match in it as well. There's a few good add-ins here and there, but I mean, if you look at the roster overall of who competed in that WrestleMania and just the matches they had and the era that they were in, this I think was like peak Attitude Era WWF at the time.
Yeah,
I remember watching this, when I was younger, when it was live, it was on pay-per-view. It just felt like the biggest thing ever. The ending was a little suspect. I get that. But I mean, overall, I think it's the greatest WrestleMania that they've ever put on. Like front to back, top to bottom, pure entertainment.
Yeah.
And that's just one that you need to check out if you haven't, is watch that pay-per-view over again.
So WCW had just closed the week prior to this Mania, and it still, the Monday Night Wars, the aftermath of it, you have WCW wrestlers in the Skybox in Houston, physically there watching the McMahon versus McMahon thing happen. I'm sure that they were, there's been podcasts and reviews and everything with all the behind the scenes of that time. So, refer to them to get your full kind of scope of all that. But that's a very, it's the best WrestleMania that everybody has at the top of their list as like the WrestleMania to watch and to have in their collection. It's the best one.
Yep. And that's why that one's going to the island with me.
Okay.
And so I guess that one's pretty undisputed. So number 2 here, what I'm taking with me in my draft picks of the all-time pay-per-view.
I'll go ahead and just close that thought by saying it is not on my list.
Really?
It is not on my list.
Why is that? I'm interested. How did that not make your list?
Just more my taste in events and that stuff. I'll explain as we get closer to the top of the list here.
Okay. Now, I do want to actually comment on something on your list. For Backlash 2004, it's like, although I understand the nostalgia factor and everything that meant to you, I'm thinking like on a desert island, you've only got 5 pay-per-views to take with you. Are you sure you want the Chris Benoit reminders?
I can take it or leave it.
Okay.
The
Okay.
reminders, it depends. Don't forget, I have 3 other pay-per-views I'm taking with me. So,
You do, but all right. All right. We'll get through. We'll get through it. All right. So my number 2 draft pick is Money in the Bank 2011.
CM Punk.
CM Punk versus
Yes.
John Cena in Chicago. Oh
Mhm.
my God, that was
That
a masterclass.
the pop at the beginning of that match is incredible. It's reminiscent of like the Road Warriors, the LOD back in the day, walking out to the hometown crowd in Chicago, and it is a amazing show.
And it's not only that; it's the volume of booze that John Cena gets as soon as his
Oh,
music hits was legendary. It gives me chills
it's
to this
nuclear heat.
day.
Nuclear heat. So
It was incredible. That
mhm.
match is one of the best that's ever been put on. That event was incredible. The build up to it, the package before the match. I used to show that to people, and they would be like, "I haven't seen wrestling in a long time, or I've never seen wrestling. I want to watch this."
Yes.
That's
Yep.
that was incredible.
How about
Um,
how about the aftermath of that pay-per-view too? CM Punk leaving the building, physically getting into like his friend's car and driving to his apartment and taking the title and just stashing it in the fridge.
which none of that you actually see. The last thing you see is he gets the belt,
Yeah.
he wins it, he blows a kiss to Vince McMahon and runs out through the crowd to exit the building
Yep.
immediately.
This
And
is
he's
all
like, he just took the WWE title and
yeah,
left with it, and he's done with the company.
that's right. And he had named off all these different companies on Raw the week before
Yeah, he literally
that he was
says, maybe I'll go back to Ring of Honor. Maybe I'll
yeah.
go over to New Japan Pro Wrestling and defend this title.
He drops Colt Cabana's name, and so you're thinking, "Oh my God, I'm going to be watching Ring of Honor on HDNet at the time to see if CM Punk shows up there to challenge Colt Cabana for the Ring of Honor title, because I think Colt was the Ring of Honor champion at the time too. So it's like
Yeah,
what. And,
exactly. I mean, it was such a great time
yep.
for wrestling, and that was just peak right there for that pay per view. And also some other great matches on there. Both Money in the Banks are very entertaining, but also
They are.
this is during the time of Christian and Randy Orton in a very underrated feud that
Mhm.
produced some incredible matches.
Yes. Yep.
Now, granted, their SummerSlam match later on was a better match. This one is still a good match because it's the two of them on a pay per view.
Yes.
But still, I mean, like this whole pay per view, top to bottom, is a great show to watch. But that main event is something else. It's I'm watching that till the end of time.
Cool. Great choice. Awesome choice.
Thank you, thank you.
Awesome choice. Awesome choice. Not on my list. Anyway.
What? What? That didn't make your list?
I'm going to love this series, folks. I'm going to love this
Oh
series.
Lord, you took me into James Brown here now. What?
I'm going to love this series by the end of it.
All right. All
Anyways. All right. So
no judging, no judging.
So I named one, right? Next off of this?
No. 2-2-1.
Oh, 2-2-1. So I named 2 more. Okay.
Yep, 2 more.
So remember how I laid out the ground rules at the beginning of this thing and said that, if there's compilation tapes or compilation DVDs of a certain tour or something, that would count as a pay-per-view. This qualifies as one of them. I did a Nitros take on this show last year, and it's very apt with the passing of Jim Crockett Jr. here recently. I have on my Desert Island list the 1987 NWA Great American Bash for one reason: the birth of the War Games match, as that tape has in its entirety both War Games 1 and War Games 2 on there. War Games 1 was the July 4th, 1987 Omni main event between the Four Horsemen lineup of Ric Flair, Luger, and the Arn Anderson and Tully Blanchard. I almost threw Ole in there. He was not in there. And JJ Dillon. So that it's 5-on-5 versus the Superpowers team of Dusty Rhodes, Nikita Koloff, the Road Warriors, and Paul Ellering. And it is 1980s blood and gore and awesome. This is the most hardcore people saw out of wrestling at this time on a mainstream scale, and
Yep.
nobody had ever seen anything like it. The entrances, the pomp, the pageantry as the cage comes down. Tom Miller, the legendary JCP ring announcer with the big announcement, just gives me chills every time, and it kicks off the tape right after Tony Schiavone does the introduction, and you see War Games 1 is the very first match on that tape, and it's "Let the War Games begin," and the crowd just ooh like that. Like, it is just, and the lights and everything. Oh, I rented this tape so much when I was a kid that that my dad, I've talked openly about pirating here on the channel before. My dad pirated this tape for me way back in the day. So yeah. So I had a copy of it, and then later on in life I was able to find an actual copy of it, so I have that now in my collection, and it's a crown jewel of my collection. I love it. Like I said, both War Games matches are in there. You have the blow off title for title between the Rock and Roll Express and the Midnight Express from the Omni as well. The same night. The second War Games match, too, by the way, is in an outdoor venue, which is very unique. It's at the Orange Bowl in Miami, I think it is where the Orange Bowl is. Anyway, or was?
Yes.
Yeah. If you know your college sports, there you go.
I don't.
But yeah, and JJ Dillon is not part of that second rematch. It's basically the same participants with the exception of one. JJ gets his shoulder separated legit because Hawk and Animal decide to doomsday device the guy inside of the War Games cage, and it's the first generation NWA WCW War Games cage. So there's not a lot of, it's the same cage where Sid almost kills Brian Pillman in it a few years later with the power bomb,
right?
But dropping him on his neck.
Yep.
Same deal here, except JJ lands square on his shoulder and pops it out.
Yep.
And you can physically see it on the tape too. It's not Faces of Gore worthy, but it's almost there. Like, he lands and he knows something's wrong, and he's like,
It's up there with like the time that Triple H, his quad just blew up in the middle of that match.
Yeah, there we go. Exactly. It's the same deal. So, but yeah, that tape is just 2 hours of awesome. It's great. Warm, fuzzy feelings from being a kid, nostalgia factor, you name it. So that's on there. And my second to last selection for the Desert Island, I'm going to go back, way back to Genesis, basically. Well, not TNA Genesis, but
ugh. I would judge you for that. I'm sorry.
As you can tell, I am an old school wrestling fan, and there is nothing more old school than a good old Roddy Piper versus Hulk Hogan feud. WrestleMania 1, baby.
Wow.
It's on my collection. It's on my Desert Island list, and I love it. WrestleMania 1, and I have a specific cut that I want to take with me to the Desert Island. It is the cut from the 1997 WWF home video anthology set. This was the first time that they ever did an anthology for all the WrestleManias. So
right.
They had just moved the video production in-house from Coliseum Video to what would become WWF or WWE home video in subsequent years. So this is the first time that any of the WrestleManias were ever handled in such a manner that they were going to be put in a VHS box set. So this is the 1997 one. If you Google it or look for it on eBay or whatever, it's the black one with the yellow writing on it. The one that came out in 1998 had WrestleMania 14 with it, but it had the Attitude Scratch logo and a lot of redesigns on the sleeves and everything.
I have that one in DVD form.
Yeah,
I totally have that.
So there you go. And I think that was like the third iteration of it as the DVD version of it. Yeah.
But why this cut specifically? Is this the one where they had Jim Ross do the commentary over top?
No, this cut specifically is the closed circuit pay-per-view rip, complete with countdowns and intermission timers and original unlicensed music.
Nice.
You name it. case in point, the Intercontinental title match on that card between the Junkyard Dog and Greg the Hammer Valentine. You have Greg Valentine, the Intercontinental Champion, in the ring waiting for the Junkyard Dog, and then all of a sudden the opening strings of Queens, Another One Bites the Dust, hits the loudspeakers at MSG, and you can crank it up on your stereo at home, and you could hear the unfiltered pop of the MSG crowd as the Junkyard Dog brings his 310-pound frame to the ring to do battle with Greg the Hammer Valentine. I'm sorry, my voice came in there. So
that's okay, because you know what? That's great. I mean, how big was that pop?
Oh, loud. The only one that's louder than that is when they introduced Muhammad Ali for the main event.
Yes, the special guest referee.
Yeah, on the outside, they have Pat Patterson as the referee on the inside. And then when Eye of the Tiger hits and Hulk Hogan and Mr. T walk out, Hogan wasn't using a Real American at the time. He was using Eye of the Tiger because of the Rocky movie.
Right.
So that music hits, and goosebumps. I got goosebumps right now talking about it.
That's really on that VHS cut, isn't it?
It is. Yep, it is. And it's a very digestible show. You can pop it in and watch it in about 2 hours and 15 minutes, 2 hours and 20 minutes, whatever it is. The ropes look loose as hell, which they are. It is old school 80s wrestling. You have your body slam challenge between Andre the Giant and Big John Studd, where the actual finish is who can body slam the other giant. Not making this up. This was a thing.
No, it was absolutely.
Iron Sheik and Nikolai Volkov taking the tag team titles from the U.S. Express, which was Barry Windham and Mike Rotunda at the time.
Yep.
So, the women's title with Wendy Richter and Cyndi Lauper, was Wendy Richter's manager, legit,
that's right.
like wrestling manager, beating Lalani Kai and the Fabulous Moolah.
Yeah,
for the women's title. So that's great. And again, Richter walks down to Girls Just Want to Have Fun, and this is 1985 New York, so of course this was huge. And of course, the big rock and wrestling connection, or the rock versus wrestling feud, with Rowdy Roddy Piper being the wrestler and Hulk Hogan being the rock and roll guy.
Yep.
That's and just me being a music nerd and everything like that. I just love it. It gets me teary. I get emotional, man. I get emotional. So that's coming with me on the Desert Island, that particular cut. So
I do enjoy that both of your picks are basically like in-depth 80s wrestling at their peak, but like one's like purely that entertainment WWF style, and the other one that gritty, hardcore NWA Crockett, whatever, style.
Southern style, yep. You got the North and the South. You got the sports entertainment and the Southern style wrestling, which is great.
Yeah, that's exactly what you have. Wrestling versus sports entertainment. There you go.
So there we go. So that's 4 of my 5 so far. I'm very curious to see what the other what the other 2 that you have on this list is.
All right. Well, here we go. At number 3 draft pick here, I take Royal Rumble 2006.
Oh, okay.
Rey Mysterio wins the Rumble.
Mm-hmm.
That, for me, I got to watch that basically at my uncle's house at the time. We're just having like a weekend thing. It was a big cookout, and we decided for some reason to stay and watch the Rumble because he had a pay-per-view box at the time.
Yes.
And so basically, as a giant family, people who'd never seen wrestling before, some who used to watch and didn't watch for a little while, and then like me, so 2006, let's say just a young adult,
sure,
like still a teenager, but
still wet behind the ears.
Yeah. But just watching this wrestling pay-per-view and just everyone being just glued to the screen and watching this thing from top to bottom and being thoroughly entertained by it. Yeah. And then in the Rumble, literally everyone in the room was cheering for Rey Mysterio. And I remember like my Trinidadian aunties and stuff were like cheering him on because they're like, wow, he's so good. And look at him go and stuff like that. And it was amazing. And just that moment of like, Eddie has passed away. Rey Mysterio, he's in the final 3 with Orton and Triple H, and like, well, we all know where this is going.
Yep.
Nope. Rey Mysterio pulls this one out,
Mhm.
and I still get goosebumps to this day thinking about that and just the moment, and he made it look like $1 million, and just him like screaming out Eddie at the end. And it's just, man, that Rumble was something else.
I'm just doing a quick Google search because I'm just going to dial up the rest of the card, because I recall that one having actually a fairly solid undercard as well. And I'm looking at it, and yes, it does. So, of course, the Rumble match, surprisingly, was not the last match on that card.
No, it wasn't.
It was not. You had 2 title matches after that. You had John Cena defeating Edge by submission for the WWE Championship.
Yep.
And then Kurt Angle defeats Mark Henry for the World Heavyweight Championship.
Yeah, and then after that,
mm-hmm.
the Undertaker comes out and like blows up the ring with electricity.
That's right. They had the real that was the real theatrical.
But it was awesome because that left an impression in my head. And like Taz, I remember they didn't get the bleep in time.
Holy
no, he said, "Holy shit!"
I think that's still in the Botchamania Open as well. So
maybe
the other undercard, it looks like you got a Cruiserweight Open to kick off the show with Gregory Helms defeating Kid Cash, who was the champion, Funaki, Jamie Noble, Nunzio, and Paul London. And
okay, so basically, like the super undercard of this match is not great,
yeah.
But the Royal Rumble
you have Mickey James versus Ashley Mazzaro for the I think one of the women's titles, and for the WWE Women's Championship with Trish Stratus as special guest referee. So there's that. Though it wouldn't be because Trish was the champion. Never mind. Sorry. So this was a non-title match, I should say. So.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like the super undercard to this one is just kind of like, okay, everyone get ready. Because that undercard only takes up not even 10 minutes of the actual showtime.
So you're not telling me that the Boogeyman defeating John Bradshaw Layfield moves the chains for you there in a minute 54?
Hey, a minute 54, he gets the move in, he eats the worms, it's over. I don't have to see JBL with his stupid theme song for the rest of the night.
I don't think he ate the mole off of Jillian's face here. I think that was an episode of SmackDown, but it had to have been in around this time. So
either way, somebody ate worms. Somebody had to have eaten worms.
Either way, somebody ate a mole. I'm just saying.
That also happened. That was so stupid.
That was a thing.
But okay, well, that part is whatever. Actually, it's okay. 7. Okay, so it's like 15 minutes, whatever.
Sure.
All that's junk. But like the Rumble match itself, and then the 2 championship matches that happen after, beautiful.
Yes. Yeah. No, that has a real solid main event scene around that pay-per-view for sure. That is the whole build to that WrestleMania in Chicago that year. Oh
yeah.
Chef's kiss. Love
exactly.
It. Mm-hmm. So.
And my next pick, let's move on from that one. I take ECW's One Night Stand.
The OG one from 2005?
Yes, we're going to take that one, not the second one.
The second one was interesting.
The second one was good.
Yeah.
The second one was good, but I mean, it had the aspect of they were going to restart a new TV show, which is now actually NXT, but they were restarting ECW, and there was a little bit of crossover. It was whatever, but this ECW One Night Stand, I mean, you open the show with Lance Storm versus Chris Jericho, and they're both in their old school gimmicks. Great opener to the show. You followed it up with the 3-way dance with Super Crazy, Lil Guido, and Tajiri. Love that one as well. Mysterio and Psychosis, and they're back in their old school Lucha Libre style. It's kind of a short match, but I mean, it's good to see them back together again and have all the crowd involvement and stuff like that. You got Sabu against Rhino. Like, that just comes together off the cuff because Rob Van Dam had a broken knee at the time or something. He's healing from it. And then he cuts a promo. Somebody comes out. I think it's Rhino, and spears him. Sabu turns off the lights, turns back on. Oh, my God, it's Sabu. They start that match, and they get into it. That was some old school ECW. Just craziness.
Love it.
Benoit and Eddie have a match. And that one's just for the memories, just to see them and get to wrestle each other at their peak is pretty amazing.
Yep.
Mike Awesome and Masato Tanaka, they have just a knockdown, drag out match.
That match. Yeah, there is no way you're having that match in 2021.
No, not at all.
But
I swear, there was a point of that match that Tanaka was hurt so bad, it looked like he was just gonna like vomit in front of the camera. Like it was so awesome.
That match, it made match of the year in one of the forums that I used to post in, and that also like probably would have made match of the decade had that forum lasted to 2010. You know, it was like everybody had just, they watched it and they were like, if you watch one match on that pay-per-view, you got to see that match because that is just unreal. And it was you still watch it today and you just kind of cringe. You're like, okay, I know Awesome unfortunately has passed away. But how is Tanaka still walking around Japan right now? And he is still walking around Japan and still wrestles from time to time too, which is like, what?
I don't know how either of them left that building on their own 2 feet that night. That was incredible stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And then the main event was just epic ECW of the Dudley Boys versus Dreamer and Sandman. If you get the uncut version, absolutely find that one because Sandman comes out to Enter Sandman by Metallica. It was the greatest intro. I mean, just the whole vibe, the ECW crowd, the atmosphere, they recreated it perfectly. It had Joey Styles on the commentary. You had Mick Foley doing a little something on color as well. At the end of it, you have a nice little Raw SmackDown heel alliance that takes on all the ECW guys in the middle of the ring. Stone Cold makes an appearance. I mean, it had everything. This was just one of the greatest pay-per-views ever put on by WWE, and it happened to be a completely authentic ECW event.
There you go. My final pay-per-view for my Desert Island list. And this will be the list that I will carry through the entirety of the series as I interview the rest of the contributors and people that I want to bring in for this and so on and so forth. It'll be over the month of March and into April a little bit. And we're going to have a lot of fun with this like we have had tonight talking about this. But my final selection is New Japan Pro Wrestling's Wrestle Kingdom 12 from January 4, 2018 and the Tokyo Dome in Tokyo, Japan.
Ooh, okay. Now, is this the one Okada and Omega, or is this Shinsuke versus AJ?
No. This is Omega versus Jericho.
What?
A no disqualification match for the IWGP United States Heavyweight Championship.
Dang. Okay, this is basically the unofficial start of AEW without them knowing it.
That's right. This is the genesis for the counterculture of pro wrestling as we know it today. Is this everything can be traced back to that moment, to the build of January 4, 2018 in the months prior to it, to Jericho basically getting the permission with Vince McMahon's blessing, don't forget, to go over to New Japan for one match and one match only with Kenny Omega to try himself against the perceived best in the world at that time, which is Kenny Omega. He was the inaugural IWGP United States Heavyweight Champion at that point in time. And the build for that match in particular, it's like watching like an old school rock opera or something. Just if you listen to the lyrics of Judas by Fozzy, it's basically the lyrics of that song put together, which is crazy.
Okay.
Yeah. It's kind of in one of those real flowery type metaphorical type ways. It is that song, which is just incredible. And the match itself is, like I said, half hour long. It starts hot. There is weaponry. We got flips off of trusses. We have tables breaking. We have full 4-letter cussing. We have just anything you want to see in a wrestling match. You see it here. Kevin Kelly and Don Callis do an amazing job of commentating that match. It's the first match that I send people to when they say, hey, I signed up for New Japan World, what should I watch? And I basically just say, watch that one. because it's the closest to a North American style sports entertainment falls count anywhere type match that you'll see, with the exception of anything else that was, later on that card too. And there's some great other matches on that card too that I'm going to get to. I mean, like the main event is 34 minutes in itself, and it's Okada versus Naito. And Naito had just started getting hot again with the Los Ingobernables gimmick the year prior. So this was, this was a cap off for this. And, this is Jay White's debut as a Switchblade versus Hiroshi Tanahashi. This is Will Ospreay basically busting out on a national scale and international scale, defeating Takahashi, Kushida, and some other guy that was implicated in the speaking out movement. So
oh yeah. Yep.
Kota Ibushi beats Cody. The Young Bucks, they win the IWGP Junior Heavyweight Tag Team Championship versus Rocky Romero's team, Roppongi 3K of Sho and Yo. And it was one of their last junior reigns before the start of AEW, because 2019 rolls around, they do Wrestle Kingdom in 2019, and what happens? All of the elite members lose. Nobody on the elite side won anything that night because they all were leaving. So it was old school booking. It's like, you're not winning. See ya.
Yeah.
It's an amazing show. It's an amazing 4 or 5, or it's a spectacle type show. It's a lot of fun. You have a great, another great hardcore war between Evil and Sonata versus Davey Boy Smith Jr. and Lance Archer on that card. So, and yeah, look at the stars that are now in AEW off of this card. This was the launching point basically of what we see now. So,
what's really funny is because I remember watching just that match of Kenny Omega and Chris Jericho.
Yes. Yep.
And I showed this to my brother, who you've actually met me. We've watched Royal Rumble together.
Oh yeah.
And it's funny, their reaction to it wasn't what I thought it would be. They basically finished the match and they said, I didn't like it. I'm like, why? And they're like, I don't know, there's something about this. There's just something that it just doesn't work for me. And I guess looking at it now, it's like there was always going to be this weird divide between people who end up watching like AEW, the AEW fans, and like the WWE fans.
Mm-hmm.
And there's something within that match at the heart of it that kind of shows where this divide is going to be between like the wrestling that people like for like just I don't know if I could explain this.
I think you just explained it. You dropped something that's huge. That's like a major plot point type dropping there from TL. He just dropped the atomic bomb on everybody there. But yeah, I can kind of see what you mean by it.
Okay, good. Because
it's definitely not for everybody.
Yeah, but in a way, it's like if you like that one, it's kind of like you might end up leaning towards like an AEW type of show. Like that just might be your thing.
Yep.
But if you watch that thing and you just like, I don't get it or I don't like it, then it's like, you kind of know which side of the audience you're on. It's a good like gauge. It's a good litmus test.
Exactly, for sure. It was the first Japanese wrestling show that I watched live. Morehouse had a watching party at his place that we all kind of gathered at, and we had like, it's amazing now thinking about it, but we had like 6 people watching wrestling until like 4 or 5 in the morning. That's when Okada defeated Naito, was probably closer to 5 in the morning. So it was an intense deal. And yeah, it's just one of my favorite wrestling memories. And to cap it all off, if you're an old school MMA fan, Masahito Kakihara wins a battle royal. So if you're a UWFI fan or an old school Pride FC fan or whatever, the name Kakihara is synonymous with the success of those promotions. And I believe that's one of his final major promotion things, because he hasn't done much since. So there we go.
There you
go. Yeah. So that's my 5. What's
all
yours? Right. The big drum roll. What is TL's pay-per-view that he's going to take to the metaphorical island.
All right, this one's going to come completely out of left field, it seems like.
What, my list hasn't?
Well, okay, so no, but I mean, I'm looking at your list. It's like you've got a New Japan Pro Wrestling Super Show.
Yes.
Like one of the biggest of all time.
Yeah.
You have your 80s wrestling, which is the foundation of what you like.
Yes.
And then you've got basically, I guess, your homegrown sense.
Yeah.
Or like, you know, the stuff that meant a lot to you from what you got to see live and what it meant to you at this time.
Fuzzy nostalgia, yes.
Yeah, so I mean, like, yours makes sense to who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. I don't knock that list at all. I'm like, that's the Nitro list right there.
There we go.
From mine, this one does come pretty much out of left field, but
right.
I'm going with NXT TakeOver Dallas.
And so not TakeOver Brooklyn, but TakeOver Dallas.
Yeah, and I knew you'd say that because I'm such a big fan of Sasha Banks.
I was going to say, yeah.
Yeah, because she's my wifey. But that match itself of Sasha versus Bayley, it's a great match, but the rest of the card is kind of meh. And I know you're going to search it up right now to see what the heck happened at NXT TakeOver Dallas. This is Shinsuke Nakamura's debut match in the WWE against Sami Zayn.
I was just double checking that. Yeah, I just wanted to see because I thought about it in my mind. I was like, is that Nakamura's debut? And it is. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So there we go.
I just remember I was going over to a friend's house to watch this one, and it's just like, this was actually the first NXT TakeOver that I ever got to watch.
Oh, really?
Absolutely.
Wow.
Like, the other ones I kind of like using the internet, found bits and pieces of like matches here and there and stuff like that. But this one was the first, this was the first card that I actually got to watch from top to bottom as a full-out event. It starts off with American Alpha taking on the Revival, which is now FTR.
Yes.
Which was a great match. And like that was the first time I got to see the NXT crowd really come together in a larger space.
Yep.
And just really give it their all. And just like the atmosphere was unreal. The action was unreal. For what was supposed to be developmental talent, these guys could really go. And they were showing like everything in this show. The next match is Austin Aries and Corbin, which was kind of a meh match, but I mean,
well, the next night Corbin goes to WrestleMania and wins the Andre the Giant Memorial Battle Royal. So it was a farewell from one brand to another for him. So he had bigger things on the horizon, and Austin Aries became Austin Aries. So
yeah. At the time it was kind of like, okay, Austin Aries, he's gonna get a push, and he's gonna start doing some things, and there was a lot of hope and put behind him. Like he was looking good.
Yep.
Now you look back on it, and he's just kind of like, ugh, Austin Aries.
It's a train wreck.
But at that time, it was kind of like, okay, this is a good stepping stone for him. And then Nakamura and Sami Zayn completely blew it out the park. Yeah. This is actually the first time at this time I had ever seen Shinsuke Nakamura. I'd never seen him before. I hadn't seen him wrestle. I didn't hear his name. I was just kind of like, okay, so they got some kind of big star from Japan. Let's see what he's like. And it completely just, wow. It wowed me. I was like, this guy is something else.
The mixture of the strong style with the MMA foundation he's got, and the whole, the whole presentation of basically Japanese Freddie Mercury, Michael Jackson.
Yeah. Just the charisma that was.
It's all Shinsuke.
Awesome, you know?
Yeah, exactly.
That guy was, as Rez Ramon would say, oozing machismo. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
Throwing the toothpick. But like Shinsuke was just amazing. And I just remember one of the first moves of the match is he gets Sami Zayn down to the ground with just a quick little something. And then he does that thing where he stomps the ground like he's going to squash his face. And of course, he misses and he hits the mat. But I mean, like, just the way that he did that, I was like, oh my God, he's going to kill this dude.
Yeah.
It was like, he made me believe. That was the biggest thing ever. And so did Sami Zayn. I was like, I really want this guy to give it all he's got against what seems like a legend that's way too big for him.
Yeah.
But like that match and the crowd audience, and that was the first time I ever heard the chant of "Fight Forever."
Yeah.
And just like how enthralling that was. Unbelievable. I can watch that today, tomorrow, whenever. I'm gonna love that match. Asuka beats Bailey for the women's title, and that's her first title win, and that turns into the legend that is Asuka.
Yep. Yeah, because
And
she never relinquished that title.
Nope, never.
Never relinquished that title.
And she basically like almost killed Bailey. Like with a she didn't even tap out. She just kind of fell asleep in the submission, and she was never the same after that. Well, in the storyline. But that was just a really great match. I was like, wow, okay, so Asuka and Shinsuke are for real, for real. And then the main event, it was Samoa Joe and Finn Balor. And those two are always going to work just amazingly. Yes. And even though there was a little bit of a mishap in that match of somebody started bleeding and they had to keep interrupting the match to take care of the blood, but it added to the match in a way because it seemed more dangerous.
I think it was Joe that got cut open.
Yeah, I think it was Joe.
Now that I remember that, yeah.
But in doing that, it added to the match because the crowd was just getting so anxious of like, let him fight. But then as soon as they start fighting, the blood would start flowing again. And then eventually Samoa Joe's like, oh, the hell with this. And they just battle. And it was a bloody mess. And they're trying to like clean up the blood, but they just want to keep fighting. And it actually told an amazing story. So yeah, man, that card top to bottom, great stuff. NXT TakeOver Dallas.
There you go. And to cap that one off, just looking at the Wikipedia, quote from Nick Schwartz from FoxSports.com at the time wrote that Shinsuke Nakamura had been so captivating, I should say, during TakeOver Dallas that fans chanted his name during the WrestleMania main event between Triple H and Roman Reigns in what is easily considered to be one of the worst WrestleManias of all time, WrestleMania 32 in Dallas, because it was so effing long.
Absolutely.
That was the 6-hour mania, the 6+ hour mania.
Yeah.
Yep. And that's when they realized maybe we should actually spread this out over 2 nights if we're going to do this crap. So,
you saying that brings up a good point. Is that on WrestleMania weekend, NXT won?
Yes. Well, that was always that back then. That was the case, repeatedly. Like even the house show that they had on during WrestleMania 31 weekend in Santa Clara was supposedly way better than actual WrestleMania, like the WrestleMania 31 card itself, a better quality of matches. And then you can make the argument about 33 and Orlando, because that was kind of a the Mania 33 I find is a little bit hit and miss watching it back now.
Yeah.
Even though I was there in attendance and everything, but outside factors lead to me not having a fond memory of that entire weekend. But one of the few high spots of that weekend was the NXT card. I did enjoy that. That was good. And going forward, 34, yeah, you can make the argument for 34 as well in New Orleans with NXT having the better show the night before WrestleMania as well.
Yeah, and I guess I guess you're right. I mean, NXT takeovers, they used to steal the shows on all those big.
Yeah,
I mean, there hasn't been takeovers and stuff now because of the pandemic and whatnot, and but NXT's really lost their way since.
As we talked about.
Yeah, we did talk about. But I mean, you look back at NXT TakeOver Dallas, I mean, that's just peak NXT stuff right there, man.
Yeah, it was just, that era was awesome because it was super indie. NXT was the super indie. That's what it was. It was great. It was an independent promotion with independent superstars coming in, but enough of the WWE influence and production value and that stuff to really make it, jazz up. And it was the one thing that you could look forward to every week to watch. So, and get quality stuff out of it.
I do have to ask you, so I'm going to run through my 5 really quickly here. It's WrestleMania 17, Money in the Bank 2011, Royal Rumble 2006, ECW One Night Stand Original, which I believe is 2005, and NXT TakeOver Dallas. What do you think of my list?
Solid. Very solid. Very, very solid.
Thank you. You know what absolutely surprised me about this list is that they're all newer stuff.
Yes.
I mean,
Yeah.
I guess 2006 is no longer considered new, but I mean, like,
Well, still.
it's new millennium stuff.
I was going to say it's past the turn of the new millennium for everything. Those are all solid cards. Mine again, WrestleMania 1, WrestleMania 20, the NWA Great American Bash from 1987, Wrestle Kingdom 12, New Japan Pro Wrestling, and Backlash 2004. So yeah, it's like I said, it's got a real, mine is kind of all over the map, but as you said mine is all about the nostalgia factor for me and thinking back to the times and checking these out. And I just kind of like watching old pay-per-views to see nowadays. And that's what I hope to do with this channel, is watch old shows and current shows and look at them through 2020 and 2021 eyes and just be like, hey, does this work now or does it not, or whatever?
Yeah.
You know? Does this, do I still like it? So if I do this again in 10 years time, would I have the same 5? I have no idea. So, that's the thing, right? So
hopefully not. Like, hopefully there's something better that comes along. You know what I mean? But I mean, if it's the same, then it is what it is.
It is what it is. So,
but you know what?
Yeah.
I was just going to say, thinking about it, it's kind of like yours is almost like photo albums of, like, you look back at this stuff, you're like, oh, cool, remember the time and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And mine are more like taking favorite novels, like these books, and if I read them back, I just kind of take the ride in the adventure one more time.
Yep.
That's kind of how I see our list.
There you go. I am a picture album that's collecting dust in the basement, and yours is a Facebook page. So.
Oh, wow. Wow. Way to crap all over this. It's raining crap on my island now. A shitstorm, if you will. Anyways.
There we go. It's my channel. Anyway, I'm Kellen Nitro. Later days. Happy wrestling watching. And we are going to do this again. Like I said, all throughout the month of March and April. Get your picks down below. Remember the parameters of the rules. You have to pick 5. You can pick from any promotion across, like we just picked basically stuff out of the WWE library, with the exception of myself, but the Wrestle Kingdom 12 selection. But throw stuff from wherever on there. If there's like there's even like a really balls out independent card that you went to, throw it in there. If it's got a DVD of it, it counts. Hey, there we go. And like I said, the parameters is the only thing we will not accept is basically like personality profiles or weekly television specials. So yes, I know like the Brody Lee tribute was great, but I can't accept that right now. It's a weekly episode of AEW Dynamite at the moment. So, it's not a special or anything.
I'm going to catch you off guard for one quick second, because I'm going to ask you something right off the top of your head.
Okay. Yep.
If you had a number 6, what would it be?
Whoa. Okay. So this is the first alternate. Probably X7. Probably X7.
You just took one from my list. All right.
Yeah. So probably X7. So let me flip it back and send it your way. What would it be for you?
SummerSlam 92.
Oh, Bret and Bulldog.
Bret and Bulldog main event, Wembley Stadium, baby.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. I'm kind of sad it doesn't make my top 5, but when I look at my top 5, I'm like, no, that's solid entertainment.
It's amazing that how that main event transforms that pay-per-view, because without that main event for the Intercontinental title, we're looking at SummerSlam 92 as, oh yeah, Ultimate Warrior and Randy Savage in a rematch from WrestleMania 7.
That not only transformed that, you're right, but that not only transformed that pay-per-view, that transformed wrestling. Yes. Because after that, Bret Hart goes on to be the WWE champion, WWF heavyweight champion, and takes the company from there.
And it showed that smaller guys can work.
Exactly. And that matches, inspired everyone who's a star right now. Mm-hmm. Everyone who's a star right now. Yeah. Remember, they follow guys like Bret and Shawn, Bulldog, all those kind of guys. Not so much the Hogans and Ultimate Warriors, who just kind of looked big and went out there.
Rick Martel and Shawn Michaels fight to a count out decision in that pay-per-view as well. SummerSlam 92.
Hey,
So
man.
I'm just saying, hey, as much good as that pay-per-view has, there's a lot of cheese you got to get through it.
Which is why a lot of those early like foundational stuff for me doesn't make this list, because you look at older pay-per-views, they're not built as solid as they were in like the mid to late 2000s.
Yep.
They're not built solid like that. They're kind of built as like the main event is the big thing and everything else is just a little taste of something.
It's funny how that is, you know, it's really weird because you fought like during like Wrestling Zenith, like all the pay-per-views would be, oh, these are all solid shows and that stuff. But yeah, if you watch anything from like say the NWO era of WCW, they have some really great pay-per-views, and then there's a lot of stuff that is you can crumple it up and throw it in the trash can.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And same with WWE. Like, I mean, there's a lot of great stuff. Like, you know, I was considering throwing St. Valentine's Day Massacre on my list too. That would have been that would have been a number 7 if we got that far down. You know, but I just, you know, I didn't really, you know, it didn't really move the needle as much as the top 5 for me and that stuff. But also on the other side of that, you know, I don't think anybody's putting Fully Loaded in Your House from 1998 on any of these lists. So,
yeah, no, that's true.
What's the most redeemable quality of that show? Sable's boobs. Okay. Anyway,
Oh yeah.
So there we go. Anyways, I'm going to wrap it up for now. I'm Cali Nitro. He's been TL. Follow me on Twitter at Cali Nitro. And like I said, tweet us your picks. Put them down in the comments below or tweet them to me. Again, parameters. It's got to be a pay-per-view. It's got to be an existing show that you can put into a pay-per-view card or into a DVD or whatever. And no compilations and no weekly television. Sound fair? Cool. So, all right. Later days. See you guys.